it made the balloon get bigger. This gave Duncan an idea. He huffed and puffed and puffed and huffed. The balloon got bigger and bigger and floated away. Duncan was delighted. He raced on to Mr. Percival's house. Mr. Percival was waiting for him. "Where's the hot air balloon, Duncan?" "It came loose, sir, and floated away." Mr. Percival was upset. Then there was trouble. The balloon floated down from the sky once again, straight towards the weather vane on Mr. Percival's roof. It burst on the sharp point. The balloon tumbled down. Fizzling fireboxes! Duncan was upset. Now the twins wouldn't have their balloon ride at all. "It's all my fault, sir. I just wanted to give the twins their birthday treat, just as I always have." Mr. Percival was cross. "Duncan, you were going to give the twins their birthday ride. You were going to pick them up and bring them here." Duncan felt even more upset. He wanted the twins to have a happy day. "Sir, Peter Sam could pick up the twins. Then I will go and collect the balloon repairman. I'm sure he could fix the balloon." Mr. Percival thought this was a very good idea. So Duncan puffed quickly away. Duncan raced into Mountain Village Station. The balloon repairman was waiting. "We must be quick, sir. The balloon has to be fixed before the twins get home." Duncan chuffed quickly back to Mr. Percival's house. Mr. Percival was very pleased to see them. The balloon repairman looked at the hole in the balloon. "Oh dear, it's a very big hole. I don't have enough material to fix it." "I know, sir. My birthday flag. It just might be big enough." The balloon repairman looked at Duncan's flag. "Well, yes, Duncan. That would be perfect." The balloon repairman fixed the balloon just in time. Peter Sam arrived with the twins. They were delighted. Soon, Mr. Percival and the twins were floating high above the island of Sodor. And Duncan felt so happy, he thought his boiler would burst. And they puffed quickly away. Toby knew he had to hurry to Great Waterton. Then, Toby saw something bright shining on a sidetrack. "Maybe this is special. Now Sir Topham Hatt won't be cross with me," Toby thought. But it wasn't something special. It was an old piece of metal stuck in the bushes. Then there was trouble. Toby had puffed so far looking for something special, he had run out of coal. Toby felt terrible. He hadn't found anything special. He hadn't delivered the workmen, and he hadn't been a really useful steam tram. Toby had to do something quickly. He asked the workmen to hit the piece of metal as hard as they could with their tools. "And I will ring my bell as loudly as I can. Someone at Great Waterton is sure to hear us and come to our rescue." Sir Topham Hatt was waiting at Great Waterton Station. He heard the banging and Toby's bell. "Come on, Whiff. It sounds as though Toby's in trouble." Sir Topham Hatt arrived on Whiff. "Toby, what are you doing here?" Toby felt very silly. "I'm sorry, sir. I ran out of coal because I wanted to find something special. I thought then you would think I'm as special as the other engines." "But Toby,
You are special.
But only when I'm really useful. I know that now.
You'll always be special. You're the oldest steam tram on Sodor.
Toby felt very happy.
Now, let's fetch Rocky and get that old metal to the smelters.
Rocky quickly lifted the metal out of the bushes. Toby gasped, and so did Sir Topham Hatt. On the other side of the metal was a picture of a steam tram. It looked just like Toby.
Toby, you have found the sign for the old Great Waterton tram shed.
Toby's pistons popped with pride.
Now that's special.
And Toby couldn't have felt happier to be a steam tram. Special too, Rosie thought happily. But it was Emily with the rest of the carnival cars. Rosie's flatbed was now rolling back towards Emily. It bashed into Emily. Seats from the big wheel clattered and clanged all over the tracks. Emily was stuck. Rosie chuffed into Maithwaite Station. Nobody waved or whistled. Sir Topham Hatt was cross.
I told you to be Emily's back engine.
But I brought the carnival special, all on my own, sir. I wanted to help Emily.
You haven't helped anyone. You have caused confusion and delay. You've left half the train. Now there'll be no carnival for the children.
Rosie felt terrible. She had wanted everyone to be proud of her, and now they were cross. Please, sir, I know just what to do. I'm a very quick engine. I can collect all the cars. Then I will be Emily's back engine, and we will deliver the carnival special in time. So Rosie whooshed off as fast as her wheels would whir. First, Rosie collected Rocky. Then she pulled him as quickly as she could to Emily. Emily's tracks were still blocked. I am so sorry, Emily. I only wanted to help you. Rocky will clear the line. I will collect the other cars. Then we can deliver the carnival special together. Thank you, Rosie. Rosie left Rocky, and she raced away to collect the first freight car. She picked up the coconut car. Then Rosie collected a new car of sugar, and she raced back to Emily. Rosie had been very quick. Rocky had just loaded the seats back on the flatbed. I'm ready to be your back engine now. And together, they set off up Gordon's Hill. Rosie and Emily arrived at Maithwaite. All the children waved at the two engines. We have delivered the carnival special in time. That evening, Rosie and Emily watched the children at the carnival. The children were having a wonderful time. I hope we can work together on another special. The sooner, the better. Working with you is the best of all. Rosie couldn't have felt happier.
I'm not the man in the hills. I'm the miller.
Thomas could see the miller was no longer white. All the flour had blown off him. Thomas was upset. The miller was worried.
I still have to make the birthday cake for the party.
And I have to make the ice cream. The little engines were cross.
You said you'd bring the best present of all. Now Mr. Percival doesn't have any presents, and we're all late.
Thomas felt terrible. I wanted to find the most special present all on my own, but all I've done is spoil the party for everyone, especially for Mr. Percival. So Thomas asked Scarloey and Rheneas to take the party tent. Please, hurry. The dairyman and the miller boarded Thomas, and Thomas raced quickly away. Thomas was determined to put everything right. Thomas delivered the dairyman to the dairy to make the ice cream. And he delivered the miller to the mill. At last, the cake was baked, and Thomas chuffed quickly away with it. Thomas met Freddie at a junction. Freddie was on his way to the party. I have to get the birthday cake to the party as quickly as I can. Please, help me find the shortcut. Freddie was happy to help.
Come on now, follow me.
And together they puffed quickly away. Thomas and Freddie stopped at the Green Hills Junction. Suddenly, Thomas gasped. Bust my boiler! Look! There, all in white, was a man. He was carved into the hillside. He shone in the moonlight.
It's the man in the hills! Thomas, you found him!
Suddenly, Thomas had an idea. Freddie, please bring Mr. Percival here with all the engines. And Freddie raced away. Soon, all the engines were gathered by the man in the hills. The engines gasped, and everyone was delighted. There, far away and high up in the high hills, Sir Handel was ready to tell his story. And Mr. Percival had the best birthday present ever. From all of the of Proteus, Peter Sam was coupled up to the flatbed. Peter Sam pumped his pistons. The cream churns were heavy, but the Proteus statue was even heavier. Peter Sam puffed and puffed to the top of the hill. Now I can roll down the other side, he thought. Peter Sam raced down the hill. There was a junction ahead. Oh no, this load is too heavy. Help! Peter Sam smashed into a buffer. The cream churns crashed. The junction was blocked. Bubbling boilers! I'll never be the star of the show now. The other engines can't get through. I've spoiled everything for everyone. Then Peter Sam heard the whistles of his friends. Duncan, Freddie, and Mighty Mac arrived at the junction. They were surprised at the mess. Peter Sam felt very silly. I'm sorry. I wanted to be the star of Miss Marvel's show. He told them about finding the statue of Proteus. The engines gasped. The statue belongs to us all. Please, will you help me take it to the show? His friends were happy to help. Duncan chuffed away to find a mechanic for Peter Sam. Mighty Mac puffed to tell Mr. Percival about the statue. Freddie, will you take Proteus to the show? Freddie was delighted.
It would be an honor.
Soon the mechanic fixed Peter Sam's brakes. Now you're ready to go, Peter Sam. Later, Peter Sam collected fresh cream from the farm. I know Miss Marvel's show has started, but all the other engines will be there to enjoy the statue. Peter Sam chuffed his long way back. Peter Sam puffed up quietly. Miss Marvel was finishing her last story. Oh my! The statue is still covered. Today, one of our engines found something very special. So this is for all the little engines of the hills, because you are all special. Everyone gasped at the wonderful statue. The engines whistled. Peter Sam smiled. We are all stars of the show. Now Diesel would see the photographer, and he would find out about the new photograph. So Thomas reached lots of steam. It billowed from his boiler and filled the whole station. So Diesel didn't see the photographer, and he trundled straight by. The steam has made my camera wet. I'm sorry, sir. We'll have to wait for it to dry. Tell the engines to come back later to Tidmouth. So all the engines came back later, instead of doing their jobs. At last, the photographer was ready. No one had noticed Diesel wasn't there. Thomas was very relieved. But just then, Diesel oiled round the bend. Diesel was surprised to see all the engines. He screeched to a halt. Rolls of bunting went everywhere.
No one told me there was another photograph.
But I asked Thomas to tell everyone. All the engines looked at Thomas. Thomas felt terrible. Sir Topham Hatt was very cross.
Gordon, you were meant to pick up Mr. Giggles, the famous clown. Emily, you were meant to pick up the brass band. And James, you were meant to pick up the bunting and decorations. None of you arrived, so Diesel had to do all your jobs. And now he's late to do his own work.
Thomas was very upset. It's all my fault, sir. I didn't want Diesel to know about the new photograph. In the last one, he moved right in front of me, on purpose.
I did not. The photographer told me to move.
I did. Perhaps you rolled too far. Thomas knew then he'd made a mistake. I'm sorry, Diesel. I was wrong to think you did it on purpose. And I'm very sorry for causing all this trouble, sir. Soon all the engines were lined up. The new photograph was taken. Sir, if I do all Diesel's jobs, can he collect the new billboard?
That's a wonderful idea, Thomas.
Diesel agreed. For the rest of the day, Thomas worked hard. He did all Diesel's jobs. And Diesel picked up the new billboard just in time for the celebrations. It was a wonderful party. There were clowns and a brass band. Diesel and Thomas agreed that the new billboard was the best billboard they'd ever seen. The longest line of freight cars a big engine could pull. At last, Henry puffed to the Wishing Tree Junction. He left Emily and Percy's freight cars on one track. Then he shunted Thomas's freight cars onto another. Finally, he shunted Toby's freight cars onto the express line. All the lines to the Wishing Tree were blocked. Now nobody can get through. The Wishing Tree will be safe. At Brendam Docks, the special woodsmen were waiting. Henry hadn't arrived, so the docks manager asked Salty to take the woodsman.
Aye, yes, sir.
Salty tried to get to the Wishing Tree, but all the tracks were blocked with freight cars. Henry was still feeling very happy. Then he heard Harold hovering above him. Hello, Henry! The special woodsmen can't get through to the Wishing Tree. They're the only ones that can help. Without them, the tree will have to be cut down. Oh, dear. The woodsmen are here to save the Wishing Tree, not cut it down. I have made a very big mistake. Henry felt terrible. Now, I must put everything right as fast as I can. And he chuffed quickly away. First, Henry took Toby's freight cars to the depot. Then he took Thomas's freight cars to the quarry. Next, he took Emily's cars to the coaling plant. Finally, he took Percy's cars of empty milk churns to the farm. At last, all the tracks were clear. Henry collected the special woodsman. Thank you, Salty. Then he wheezed quickly away. Soon, Henry chuffed up to the wishing tree. The woodsmen were ready to start their very special work. They cleared and propped, they clipped and chopped. And Henry helped too. Soon the wishing tree was standing tall again. The wishing tree was saved. I wish the wishing tree lasts forever and ever. The special woodsman cheered, and Henry smiled his biggest smile ever. He's still there. Toby mustn't see Flora. Flora, we are late to pick up my load. We must go to the docks. If you say so, Thomas. And they puffed quickly away. At the docks, Thomas was coupled up to his large load to take to Great Waterton. Thomas was sure Toby would now be leading the parade. Come on, Flora. Flora's axles ached, but Thomas steamed stronger. Thomas and Flora puffed up to the junction. Then there was trouble. Flora had chuffed too far. She had run out of coal. I'm sorry, Thomas. Flora's wheels wobbled weakly. Thomas felt bad. He knew it was his fault. Then he heard a chuff, and a puff, and a ring of a bell. It was Toby. Thomas, I've been waiting for you. Who's that? Cinders and ashes. Toby had met Flora. Neither of them was at the parade. Thomas couldn't have felt worse. Sir Topham Hatt would be very cross. Flora, this is Toby. Toby, this is Flora. Toby looked very happy. Thomas was surprised. I wanted to tell you, Thomas, that I was too scared to lead the parade by myself. But now, Flora and I can lead it together. I thought I knew what you wanted, Toby, but I was wrong. Now Thomas had to quickly put right his mistake. Flora, take my coal. I'll pick up more. Puff as fast as you can to Great Waterton. Toby and Flora soon puffed away. Later, Thomas chuffed into Great Waterton. The parade was ready to leave. Thomas's flatbed was uncovered. Flora gasped. She had a wonderful new tram car. Toby was pleased. Thomas watched his two friends lead the first Great Waterton parade. The children cheered. The brass band boomed. Now I have another best friend, and she is a steam tram too. And Thomas smiled his happiest smile. Lady Hatt was pleased. Hello, Dusty. How are you? We're going to be really late now, Percy huffed to himself. At last, Lady Hatt finished talking to Dusty. Now, Percy, I'd like to see the bluebells in the woods. It would be the perfect end to my special trip. Percy was more worried than ever. Percy puffed to the woods, but with every puff, he was getting later and later. and further from Lady Hatt's surprise. Percy and Lady Hatt arrived at the wood. Lady Hatt wandered off to admire the bluebells. Percy waited and waited. Suddenly, Thomas puffed up to Percy. "Where have you been, Percy? Sir Topham Hatt is cross. He doesn't want Lady Hatt to be late." Percy didn't want Sir Topham Hatt to be cross. He didn't want the surprise to be spoiled. "Don't worry, I'll have her there on time." So Thomas puffed away. Percy couldn't see Lady Hatt anywhere. Percy knew what he had to do. He had to use his do-as-I-say whistle. Percy blew his whistle long and loudly. Lady Hatt came out of the woods. "Percy, is something the matter?" "I'm taking you to a surprise. That's your special trip." "Oh, I love surprises. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I thought you'd be cross with me if I told you what to do, and now we might be late. We must hurry." So Lady Hatt climbed quickly on board, and Percy raced away. Percy steamed back to Great Waterton as fast as he could. The band was warming up. Jack and Alfie were very excited. Percy had arrived with Lady Hatt on time. The band started to play. Lady Hatt was delighted. "Oh, what a lovely surprise. Thank you for getting me here on time, Percy." "And thank you, Percy, for keeping it a surprise." Percy was pleased. His do-as-I-say whistle had saved the day. It had been really useful, and so had Percy. Right at the end of the dockside, so Thomas had to wait. Just then, Percy arrived. "Hello, Thomas." Percy saw that Thomas was collecting the brass band. He was very upset. "Why didn't you tell me, Thomas? I tell you everything." Thomas felt terrible. He tooted his best friend's whistle. But Percy didn't whistle back. Thomas felt worse than ever. He puffed out of the docks with the brass band. Thomas arrived at Great Waterton. Sir Topham Hatt was waiting to welcome the brass band. Thomas still felt very unhappy. He had let his best friend down.
Thomas, you must come back at the end of the concert to pick up the brass band.
Then an idea flew into Thomas's funnel. "Sir, can Percy pick up the band?"
Percy is delivering the mail.
"If I pull Percy's mail cars, then could he pick up the band?" Sir Topham Hatt agreed. So Annie and Clarabelle were uncoupled, and Thomas steamed off to find his best friend. Now Thomas really wanted to find Percy, but Percy was nowhere to be found. Thomas was worried. The concert would finish soon, and the band would be waiting. Then Thomas saw Percy. He was waiting at a signal. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you I was picking up the band. I'm busy. I have to pull the mail. I have something to tell you. I'll pull the mail for you. Then you can go and pick up the brass band and take them to the docks." Percy beamed from buffer to buffer. "Thank you, Thomas." He was very excited. Thomas buffered up to Percy's mail cars and quickly pulled away. He was pleased to help his best friend. Percy steamed off to pick up Annie and Clarabelle. He couldn't wait to collect the brass band. Later, Thomas puffed into Great Waterton. Percy was waiting for the band. You are my best friend, Percy. From now on, I will always tell you everything. And they tooted their best friend's whistle for everyone to hear.